Hi, I'm August Keller, and this is my review of Final Destination Bloodlines. So, I think this movie, at best, is mild amusement. I know it's being well received right now, and I'm the dissenting opinion here. I don't really get it. I don't really get why people are praising it like it's an actively good movie. It's not bad. I was never mad at it. Maybe it's better than all the other Final Destination sequels. I can't really speak to that. I've only seen one and two. I still prefer the first one of the ones that I've seen. And yeah, even if it's the best of all those, I don't really think that's saying a whole lot. So yeah, let's talk about why. So it's got a well-worn premise. Everyone knows the premise by now. But it kind of adds a little extra to that by giving the protagonist these estranged relationships. It's more centered around a family. But while that sounds good, I think that drama is never really earned and it's never really meaningfully paid off either. For example, the protagonist, she's got a cousin who it seems like they used to be friends and now they're not cool anymore, and that goes nowhere. Um, and there's just a lot of stuff like that in there where it's like, oh, okay, I guess you could say there's drama in this movie, but is that drama or is that just like a thing that's just kind of thrown away? And I think the characters are all pretty superficial. You know, they have motivations and these like traits, and there are some vulnerabilities. You know, with like characters being mad at their mom and their mom being mad at her mom, but it doesn't really go anywhere. It doesn't really unpack anything. So it's just like a thing that's there. It's window dressing. Um, this movie is about, it's a pretty traumatic story, but there's just no real sincerity anywhere. It's clear that this script is going for like a campy mood, but I think that comedy is constantly undercutting emotional investment as well as genuine horror. I know people are probably hearing me say this and thinking you're taking this movie too seriously, but I was thinking about a movie like The Monkey, which is very comparable from this year, earlier this year. It's got a very similar premise. It's got a very similar comedy horror tone, but I think that movie actually hits sincere drama. You know, it like its protagonist has an arc and it has themes, and the comedy really fits well with the drama and the horror better because the comedy is really like black comedy. This comedy is just kind of broad. It's just kind of generic humor that I think is constantly kind of just making anything that would feel tense, anything that would feel like sincere, just kind of feel farcical. On that note, I think the acting, while it dabbles with some intensity and some chemistry, not a whole lot. I didn't think it was impressive or anything. It was just kind of like, all right, they're doing a little bit of that. But again, I think there's a lot of farce to it. I think some of the side characters are a bit much, and I found them kind of annoying. And I think it's because they're kind of leaning into that comedy a bit much. And I just don't think I think it's just kind of a bunch of, it's just kind of silly. And I just don't think, I never thought it was funny. I guess it was kind of funny at times. It's kind of scary at times. It's kind of drama at times, but never really it never really hits any of those marks like strongly. So all that is to say that I think Bloodlines, it has this mindless, self-aware like intention. It's trying to like be like winking at itself, but I think that really gives it a low ceiling. Technically, besides the tense opening sequence, I think Bloodline really muddles its tone. That opening sequence is really good. I think it might have why a lot of people like this movie is because that opening sequence really sets a tone, but then the rest of the movie kind of goes away from that, and I think maybe a lot of people just like that first sequence really like hooked them, and that was enough. But when you take that first sequence away, the rest of the movie feels pretty just kind of generic and bland, in my opinion. It's kind of clashing with itself, like I said, with the drama, the horror, and the comedy. It just kind of like it's very muddled. So the cinematography, it has some composition like lighting and angles and framing, like a little bit peppered in. But I think a lot of the climactic moments are really kind of lacking contrast. Like that opening sequence, once it gets going, it feels kind of like murky and grayish, and then the ending climax is pretty dark and underlit. So yeah, I found the cinematography kind of to be a wash. The editing has these flashy flourishes of like inserts and some pacing ramps where it like starts going faster and faster. Uh, but I think the broader structure is pretty uneven. I think like some of the sequences kind of feel drawn out. Some of the the non set pieces, like the talking sequences, kind of feel repetitive or also drawn out. Um, so yeah, I just kind of feel like the momentum is just kind of clunky and never really gets going. It's just kind of it's fine. I didn't dislike the momentum. I was never. I don't know if it ever like downright drags, but it's close to dragging. I think almost the whole time. The sound design I thought was good. It was pretty proactive. There's obviously the genre elements like violence and action, but on top of that, there's a lot of subjective distortions like echoes and emphasis and muting and things like that are like conveying how the character's feeling. There was kind of a lot of that actually, so that was nice. The music, I found the scoring, the majority of the movie, the scoring to be generic, but there's these bookendings of like needle drops, which are kind of juxtaposing, kind of recontextualizing. So that was really good, and you kind of leave with like a tune in your head. Um, the production design, I think, just doesn't really have much personality. I find it weird how when we get to see a character's home, and then their home says nothing about them, it just kind of looks like something from an IKEA catalog. There's no personality to that. Um, the cast is young and has some diversity. It was nice to see a woman of color leading, but I don't think there's any fame here at all. Like I did not recognize any of the actors. Besides Tony Todd, of course, who's in one scene in a cameo, but that's it. Uh, and also, I found the CGI. This is a pretty big gripe for me. I found it kind of suffocating. It's very over reliant on digital. The effects are over reliant on CGI. It's almost all digital. So all the violence is just doesn't have this tangibility, and I think that's really important for violence. When you're watching a horror movie, you want it to feel visceral, and that's where like prosthetics and like real makeup and stunts and stuff like that really go a long way, even if it's not as convincing as CGI, which I think is debatable. But at the very least, I think it being practical, being tangible effects is much better than digital. And this movie is not only some digital, it's like almost all digital. So I really found the violence not satisfying. So yeah, all that is to say that I think Bloodlines feels pretty average to me. I don't think it's very above average at all. I know a lot of people might not like me saying that. I don't know. It seems like this movie's having a moment. I feel like that moment's going to pass real soon though, and people are going to forget about it because I don't think it's a very memorable movie. So yeah, I'm sorry to be a downer, but I'm here to speak what I think is the truth. So that's what I got for you. So yeah, thank you for watching. Oops, I went out of order. That's all I have to say about that. If you like what I'm doing here, please feel free to like and subscribe. I also have an Instagram linked in the description. I'd love support there or here, whatever you can do. But at the very least, I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you next time. Okay, thanks. Bye.